Yeah, are you all ready?
Bro, I'm just getting your levels, really.
Oh, okay. So Shawn Metcalf, City Administrator, SHAWN METCALF.
I won't have a little camera, but I'm gonna stick that on the side. You're 6 and 1.
Yeah, they do. Ready?
Yep. Go for it.
Okay. So my name is Shawn Metcalf. I'm the City Administrator for the City of Hastings. Many of you have heard some of the conversations revolving around City Hall, and I'm just going to give a very big, brief update for those that are maybe unfamiliar with the condition of City Hall, and then I'll kind of jump into more of like last night and moving forward. So I came to the community about 2.5 months ago, not very long. Some of my first meetings with City Hall employees, they described that they were having poor health conditions. We would call them, from sinus infections to congestion, runny nose, those sorts of things. And obviously, anyone that hears that and has some responsibility has a concern, and I definitely was very concerned to hear those things actually come out of someone's mouth, and multiple people. So it was my decision to go ahead and set up a committee to start working on these issues, to see what we need to do to move forward with the City Hall issues that there have been. Prior to me coming here, it's my understanding that for a couple of years, I think there's been conversations about fixing some of the issues that are at City Hall with mold remediation, asbestos, radon, and different issues. So, and then there's also structural issues. There's the roof of City Hall needs replaced, just on and on, a lot of different issues. So anyway, I set up a committee, and we've met a couple of times. The committee was very adamant that we needed to, before we moved any further in kind of discussions of what to do with City Hall, they wanted us to reach out to the community and really get their thoughts on what we should do with City Hall. For those that haven't heard much about this, we could repair City Hall, we could renovate City Hall, we could go to a new location, we could build new, and I think when we're talking about a big dollar figure, I think it's important to look at all the options that are there and make sure that community members feel that we've done our due diligence to make sure we're making the right choice for the community. So we subsequently had 2 town hall meetings, which was March 4th and 6th, if I have my dates correct. That was, I felt like, very well received from the community members that were there. I feel like they were heard. We talked about, all their concerns that they had about City Hall. And we have since sent out a survey, which was similar to what we discussed at those meetings. And it's just questioning, like, what do you want from City Hall? What are the key things as a community members that you want to see out of your City Hall? Because ultimately it's theirs. We're there to serve our community members. So from that, we've sent out this survey. I was actually quite surprised. The survey's been out only for about a week now, and we've had 400 respondents, which I thought was great. So it's a short survey, 7-question, and I think we've really had some good feedback in there, and I'm excited to see what the whole community thinks about this building and what they want to do moving forward. So that brings me more to the more recent issues at hand. Is we did our environmental engineer, Marty Stange, he had a mold test done because we were looking to bring in a safety director into one of the offices near mine. and he saw that there was mold coming out of the air vent there. And so naturally, he thought we should test that. It's been a while since we've done any testing on the mold here. The mold testing came back the week or a few days after we did the town hall meetings. And so one of the questions that came up, I know that was going to be a question today, is like, why didn't we discuss it at those town hall meetings? That's because we didn't have the results of the survey. So, not of the survey, but of the results of the mold testing. So that would be why. So basically, we found out this was a little bit different of the testing than last time, because they just tested airborne mold and how that affected us. This time it was in the air ducts, and you could see the issues that were there. They described in the report colonies of mold, and really it's just not, in my mind, that's not acceptable at all. Employees at City Hall shouldn't have to feel like they have to question if they have to take allergy pills to be working here. That shouldn't be a criteria of their job. Like, no one should be in those conditions. And so I've made the decision to move forward in looking in some alternative locations where we can house City Hall employees until we're able to do remediation efforts or whatever the council decides. I kind of view what happened recently to make this decision as as kind of a positive thing, not only because it's the right thing to do for employees, is to get them in a place where they feel healthy and safe, but also City Council has some big decisions to make on what we do with City Hall. And so it takes that pressure off them to try and have to decide right now. And I think that's important. We don't want to rush into a decision. So that's kind of what we talked about last night. It was actually a pretty long conversation at City Council of what's going on with the mold and the move, and the council also knows that it's under my purview to be able to move employees where we need to have them. It's more of an administrative function. So this morning we met with employees, and we had some discussions about locations of where we could go. There were several locations discussed. And likely what will happen is we have one building which is called the Yost building. We can house a third to half of the employees at City Hall there. And that makes a lot of sense. We should utilize the space that the city already has. So it makes perfect sense to me. Additionally, we have quite a bit more staff that we have to figure out where to put them, and so right now we're just putting our fillers out there, trying to find a good option that will work for us. And really, what we're looking at is finding a place that we can have them for, say, like 2 to 3 years. Because let's say the council decides that they want to repair this building. It's going to take a long time to do the repairs and costs, but this is good because we'll be out of here. And so if they make the decision sooner than later, we'll already kind of be out of the way, and they can get right to work. We can get right to work on things. So I think it's like we're kind of getting ahead of it, I would say. But we'll see what happens. I really don't know at this point with the committee what the recommendation will be to move forward and how we're going to do that. But time will tell. We're about to get that committee back together pretty soon here after the survey results are all in next week. And then we'll analyze those results and start putting a big list of pros and cons of each location. We'll be looking at different costs, kind of re-looking at some of the drawings that were put together before, and coming up with ultimately a recommendation. So there you have the update. I'm happy to answer any questions that you want to throw at me. I feel like I'm open book, happy to answer whatever you'd like.
I think, so what kind of had you settle on the Yoast? I believe you said space, but was there anything else?
Yoast is the definite. I think we're definitely going to use Yoast to put probably 10 of the employees or something like that.
Shawn, how many employees work in City Hall?
We did let me think about that. We've got
I believe believe it's 20.
It's right around 20. I just wanted to give you an exact number because we had just counted that up this morning, but it's somewhere right around 20. We'll go with an easy figure.
I asked Tony yesterday.
I think it's between 20 and 25.
Yeah, so it's somewhere right in there.
I have a question. So as far as like the mold, I know having been here a few times, like I know there's a definitely like smell change from like going from outside to inside. I know you said that there were employees kind of coming and complaining to you, but I mean, did you notice anything yourself? I mean, because I could tell the smell was a little bit different from
Yeah.
inside to outside.
Not so much the smell for me, but I definitely have noticed the difference coming here. Yeah, absolutely, I have.
And has that affected your health at all?
It has. Yeah.
In what way, if you don't mind sharing?
I have, and I honestly didn't even want to bring this up because I don't want this to be about me, because I could see someone trying to say, oh, well, it's just, I just don't want it to be about that. But yeah, I have experienced those symptoms that were talked about in the report. I've been sick with those symptoms since I've been here, and I don't usually get sick. So I guess the whole point is I can attest to when people are saying that they're sick, they mean it. Yeah.
So figuring out where to go, you say that the Yost building, are people going to be moving their stuff tomorrow, or what do you think?
It's going to take a little while to get things prepared. I think I'm going to say within a month to 2, we should be able to get people where they need to go.
What types of things need to be prepared to move? Is it moving computers or?
Yeah, all furniture that they have, IT, software, computers, and there might be some partitions and walls that have to be set up in spaces and those sorts of things. So it's kind of quite a bit of logistics, but of course we want to move on it as quickly as we can too. But I would say within a month or 2.
So last night at the meeting, I remember Mark Rowan had said something about he was hearing things from the public saying that it was planned obsolescence. What do you say to that?
I'm going to be really honest. That frustrates me to hear that, because when I look at myself, I just came from outside of this place. I've been here for 2.5 months. I have never heard of any employees talking about things like that. I certainly have no motives other than to do what's right for employees and residents here. So that comment frustrates me.
And what's the timeline? So now we know we want to move employees out. Is that coming in the next week, next 3 days? What's the timeline?
To move employees out, I think within a month or 2, because we just have to get all those office spaces ready. Yeah.
What's the process like? You got the Yost building, you're going to have some people. Are you looking at other city properties or leasing space for the remaining?
Yeah, we're in conversations about both, kind of considering if there are some other city spaces, but I think just for example, if we were to move some employees over to the utilities building, it's not going to be a convenient move. Like, we could put people in the conference room there, but then that displaces the conference room, and then what do they do then? It's kind of like a trickle effect if we start taking some of that space. So I right now I'm leaning towards like leasing, finding a space that's not going to create more issues than we already have. Yeah.
What's the mood like? I mean, I'm sure been on the minds of everybody here for the last week or so. What's the mood knowing that, hey, it's not super safe to be here, but we're still going to be here for another month or 2?
I think it was helpful, the discussion last night, where one of the community doctors came up and talked about it. The type of mold that we have, it's not like it's a toxic mold. It's not something where we have to be out tomorrow, you know what I mean? But it's something that we want to diligently and quickly as we can find a new space so that people don't have to deal with some of the symptoms that were described.
Do you think this will interfere with the process of hiring more employees?
hiring more employees.
Yeah, I know we talked and you said that you wanted to kind of come up with the facilities manager position and even also adding more positions on the backside, but do you think this will interfere with that?
No, I don't think so. I actually think if anything, this really confirms the need to have facilities maintenance. If anything at all comes from this, I think like in some of those town halls that came up is like universally people are like, it would be good benefit of the city to have a facilities manager that can oversee all of the buildings and make sure that proper maintenance is being done on them. So I view this, I guess, strangely in a good way there, because the support is there for something like that, I believe.
For a position like that, does that need to go through council, or can you
It
just?
does. It does. Yeah. Yep. New positions would go through council. Yeah.
And you're just about 2 or 3 months on the job. What has this been like, just an undertaking of just now trying to figure out how to operate city government from another location?
Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit more?
Just, setting up the committee, finding the place to move everyone to, what has that been like on your part, just trying to get all of those pieces into place, and also communicating with us and everything, just in still being relatively new to the position?
I'm new to this position, but not new to the whole local government, and prior to coming here was a city manager. So I feel like I was well prepared to come in and start to make changes. And that's, I think, what we're doing right now is we're moving forward and making those, the best decisions I feel that we can make right now for the benefit of employees and residents that come to City Hall. So it's been, some interesting challenges for sure, and that's part of the territory, I think. And we just take the issues and come up with what I would deem as the best solutions and move forward.
As far as getting rid of the mold, that's going to be a process. What needs to happen to get that process started?
So we do have someone scheduled to come and do the duct work on the molds right now, which will be towards the end of this month. And I know that they have to do some prep work to even be able to work on our ducts here. But I would think that within towards the end of this month or early into next month, they'll do the duct work and cleaning. So that's step number one. But you also think that that's just the duct work. This mold that, and the airborne mold that's going into through the ductwork is going into every surface that we have. So like in that report it talked about in that room, the mold is on the asbestos ceiling. So when we start talking about asbestos, in order to mediate that, and this is talked about in the report, we're going to have, that's going to have to be enclosed and completely removed. And there's different things like in this building, I would deem like the carpets and those sorts of things need to be replaced to truly get it out. There's also water that's been going behind walls historically, and so you can count on there being some mold behind walls. And so it's kind of a complicated response to your question, and that's why I think it's important that we get out of here, because then it's so much easier to deal with it, right?
So then, it takes them a month or two maybe to you strip the carpet, you do walls or whatever. It takes a few months. You want to get a couple years maybe where you're out of here. So by that point in 2 or 3 months from now, you think there will be a decision on the future of the building by then?
I hope so. I don't know though. It's a difficult decision, and as a lot of people can tell, it's kind of there's some deep feelings about this and about City Hall and where it should be, and so it's going to be a hard decision for City Council, whatever they decide to do. I think as far as the work that staff is doing to get prepared, because my job is to make sure that council has all the information that they need to make an informed decision. And so that's why we're going through all the work that we have to, collect survey results, to do town halls and get everything that we can so that when they go to make a decision that they can. So we'll see how it goes. I know one of the council members said that maybe once we get all those results together that maybe we have more town halls, and I support the council and whatever they want. The main thing is we don't make a decision rushed, that they feel comfortable when they make that decision, and whatever they decide, we will support them 100%.
And one thing that I kind of was hearing, just coming to a couple of the town halls, was a lot of the residents, they want kind of openness from like city members with them. So could you tell me like what company you've reached out to as far as to get the mold out of the building? What's the cost going to be? Stuff like that. Is it a Hastings company in here in town?
I'm trying to remember the name of it right now. It was, so the company that was in the report at City Council last night, it's them that I believe, no, actually, no, I take that back. It was a different company. I just can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. I would have to get that for you, and I can get that to you if you'd like.
Okay.
Happy to share that.
And the cost too? Do you have like a rough estimate? Or maybe?
Initially, when they were talking about it, I think it was something like $30,000 to do the whole building. Yeah.
So combine that with, new carpets or whatever else you need. Is that a budget concern at all, or you got that?
Well, it's so much bigger than that, really, to make it a safe place for people to come back in, because we've also got, asbestos. It just depends on how deep into the fixes that we go, because if we're trying to get rid of all the asbestos, we're talking about a lot more money. If we're going to replace the roof, if we're going to fix up the foundation, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of costs involved. That's why I know before I got here, there was hesitation to spend a lot of money because they weren't sure what was going to happen. There was this whole conversation of, are we going to move somewhere else? Are we going to stay? And so they didn't want to put a lot of money into it at that time, because if someone else is going to pick it up and you can move on from it, that was the hesitation of spending prior to me even getting here. So that was kind of what was conveyed to me when I got here.
Well, and you would have to, let me rephrase this. With what I heard from the community meetings was that there was a strong interest in retaining this building. And so it sounds like no matter what you would do with that, you would need to empty this building to be able to do that work to remodel this building. So this I guess to me sounds like this was inevitable.
Yeah, I would say so, to really get it to where it's safe again, minimally, like using just the repair option. Yeah, I think that this was inevitable. And so I think it's kind of good that we're almost getting ahead of it.
And the building that you guys will be going to, have you guys tested that? Like, I don't know how long has it been, since employees have been in that building. Have you tested it to see if it's okay?
Yeah, so the Yost building is a building that was purchased by utilities or the city. We could just say the city. Not that long ago. The building is not aged like this one. Yeah,
And
so
I'm not sure how transferable is mold, but like, can it get on people's clothing and then they get to this new building and now there's mold there?
I think from the little, I'm not a mold expert, but I have asked a little bit about that, because it can get on your clothing and you can take it home, but if you wash your clothes and stuff, that's going to come off. And so yeah, but that wouldn't concern me, that's something that would be transferring over there and causing a big issue or anything. I wouldn't think so at all.
Did you guys look at the idea of just going through doing the duct work and getting everything cleaned up and then just having the employees come back in here?
Yeah, actually, that was, so Marty Stange, so some of the questions that I had for him when making this decision was, first question was, would you bring your employees over to City Hall today? And he said he would have a riot on his hands. I mean, this is more of his words. Like, they would not. These are environmental employees. They wouldn't do it. And said, okay, well, would you then, after the ductwork is cleaned out, would you bring them over? And it was an immediate no. no, there's too many issues, environmental issues, which we've kind of discussed. So that's really where I'm hanging my hat on is the expert in environmental issues. As soon as he says, I would bring, once you do these different things and make it safe, I would bring my employees over. Then that's my cue to say, well, I would too.
And with the cost of that you kind of just quoted, around 30,000, and cities similar to Hastings, like Grand Island, having a newer city hall, is there a thought of just kind of like a completely new construction building?
That's one of the options that we have brought onto the table. Like with the committee, we looked at and the council specifically asked for a repair option, a renovation option here. A new build was considered. This was all prior to me coming, and then relocating to the North Denver. And so I think it's just wise to look at all the options when we're looking at spending a lot of money and see what makes sense. Yeah.
Well, what did the employees say when you said, hey, we're going to be moving and you're not going to be in a mold infested building?
I talked to a couple this morning, and definitely they feel relieved by that and very appreciative. Some of them, I've been told, are kind of like, we'll believe it when we see this move happen. So I think that they've hoped for something like this for quite some time, but it'll be good to actually get in a safe location for them. Definitely, I think people will really appreciate it.
And did Marty share with you at all, what was the reasoning? Because when I spoke to him, he was basically, putting it up that this was an ongoing issue for a couple of years now. Did he give you a reason as to why nothing has been done about this 3-4 years ago?
Yeah, kind of. The thing is, the answer, my understanding, is that these employees, like he said, they have brought these issues up in the past, and I think what's really occurred is that the city council has been trying to decide what to do, and so they've held off on doing things because they thought, well, if we end up moving locations, do we want to dump all this money into it right now? You know what I mean? And so that was the whole hesitation, if that makes sense. So they've known, but they just haven't got to that decision making. But I think this is such a better situation now. Let's just get people to where, safer place. We know they're going to have to leave eventually to whatever happens with the building. It's just a better way to approach it.
I was going to ask about Marty talking about the roof. It sounded like the part of that process was going to be to kind of peel back the roof and see what the understructure was like before you could really get a good grasp of what was needed up there. How would that affect the employees working in the building at that time? Does that expose them to elements or whatnot?
Yeah, I did hear today that if they're doing the roof where they're completely replacing it, that's something that could impact people being here. So it's just one more reason why it makes sense to not be here. And could they probably do that work while people are here? I think that they could. And I am not the expert on this question. I think that is the case that they could, but it probably would disrupt a lot of the work. So again, better to just be in a different location.
Shawn, do you want to talk about the budget item in terms of moving employees out of here to a temporary location that's already in the budget?
Yeah, I can't remember the exact dollar amount, but the finance director told me, I want to say it was like $140,000 that the council allocated for this current fiscal year that we're in to kind of deal with some of the immediate issues of City Hall. So that's the money that we could utilize for dealing with this.
And I guess maybe a no-brainer question, but how good was it to have all that already allocated as opposed to trying to find the funds and then move?
It was good. in the sense that the council recognizes that there's a lot of issues here, and that, you know, they already had that buy-in and support to deal with some issues. But as far as the budget goes, the city has means to take care of a lot of issues. If I may just make a comment, I know it seems like there's a lot of trust issues in the community, just to say the very least. And I just hope that people that are watching this know that I'm willing to do this anytime. I'm willing to talk through any questions that they have, and I hope that that builds trust with community members. I know, you know, there's been a lot of issues in the past, but I would just hope that people can kind of look as, you know, today is more of a new day, and let's make the right decisions today and move forward in the right direction. I just want to share that message with everyone, that hopefully this comes across as the right transparency and openness and honesty. So that's the message I want people to hear today.
Well, thanks for calling the press conference.
Mm-hmm.